All right, welcome everybody. You are here attending session 1 of our secondary behavior community of practice. And so welcome and thank you so much for being here with us today. I know that it's been a long day of teaching or whatever else you've been up to today. And so we really appreciate you joining us. So Christine, if you'll go ahead and advance that slide. So I'm just going to go over a couple of things. So we have a few different ways for you to communicate since we are in a webinar. We had an overwhelming response to both sessions, both the primary and the secondary. And so you are able to post your general comments or questions in the Q&A. And also, and just on the next slide, I'll give you a link to a Jamboard. And actually, I'm going to go ahead and just post that in the chat for you. If your last name is A through K, I'd like you to be in group 1 and join Jamboard 1. If your last name starts with L through Z, go ahead and join group 2 Jamboard. And both of those links are there in the chat, or they'll be here on the next slide in just a second. The recordings, I've had a lot of people ask, what about recordings and handouts? Those are going to be available to you in a follow-up email. And so be watching for that. If you would like to have credit for attending these sessions, we are going to be offering a certificate of attendance. And so if you registered your own email into the registration for the webinar today, I will get that in a spreadsheet. If you are actually joining us in a group today, make sure that somebody in your group emails me a sign-in sheet with everybody's first name, last name, and email. That is the only way that each individual will get credit for that and get a certificate of attendance. Once you receive those certificates, it will be your responsibility to gather those together and combine them and submit those to PTSB. And the link is here. You will be getting these slides, so you'll have that. It's the same as you do for if you're in a district. You'll just submit that and then you'll just fill that out and then attach your certificates of attendance. These are something that you can either fill or print and write your name and then scan in. So just make sure that you get that done if you would like credit for these. All right, next slide. And again, this is just a reminder about those Jamboards. There's the links there if you're able to do that, and they are in the chat. I'll keep reposting them for people who are joining us a little later, but that will be our communication board or posted in the Q&A. And with that, I think we are up for the poll. So we do have a quick poll for you, and this is really just to see who's in the room today. Who do we have here? So I'm going to go ahead and launch that poll and leave it open just for a little bit. So you should be seeing that about now. Looks like we have a little bit of a variety here. That's great. And we've got about 80%. I'll give it just another second or two to see if everybody can get that in there, and then I'll share the results. All right. So thank you again. And I had put Christine's bio in your email so that she could just run with this because already we've used up almost 5 minutes. So I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to Christine Manning, who is going to just, I know, do an amazing job. If you joined us in the primary session, there will be some different things that she's going to give you for this session. And so if you are interested in joining both the primary and secondary, they're not exactly the same. She does go into different detail about some of those topics. So if you are interested, email me if you didn't sign up for both, and I can get you registered for those. So with that, I just want to welcome Christine again and tell you thank you so much for being here. I know that we are going to learn so much. So thank you.
Thank you, Deana, and thank you guys for being here. I know it's Thursday and I know it's after school and you guys probably want to go home. I know it's cold, and when I get done with work, I just want to go home and get in bed. So thank you for being here. I'm gonna try to make sure that we get out of here in an hour, so I might talk a little bit quickly. There are things in this presentation that are a little bit more beginner level concepts. And then I do give some strategies and some information that are for more seasoned teachers. So even though some of the things you see on the slide right now, you might think, oh, I already know how to do that, and you probably do, but hopefully you'll learn some additional strategies and some additional ways to implement some things to help make your classroom management work a little bit better. So we're going to talk about classroom management strategies that have strong evidence to support student behavior. We're going to implement effective and frequent praise. We're going to go over that really quickly, but I have added a slide at the very end of this slide deck, which you will get a copy of after the presentation, like Deana said, that has some articles that talk about praise and how effective it is at combating student behaviors. We're going to talk about opportunities to respond and teach you how to incorporate that in your classrooms. We're going to improve your daily schedule to best sequence activities so that you're really mindful about what you're doing and how you're presenting material to the students so that they can best be engaged in what you're doing. And then successfully implement a simple group contingency plan. So Tuesday I went through a couple ideas for a group contingency. Today we're going to go through a different group contingency, so it'll be different information. So if you attended Tuesday, something completely different today. So I'm hoping to make sure that everybody gets something out of these webinars. So objective 1, we're going to learn classroom management strategies that have strong evidence to support student behavior. So effective teaching and positively functioning classrooms with low levels of disruptive behavior require planning and consistency. And those are very, very true. However, the planning doesn't need to be crazy. It needs to be smart. And so we're going to talk about a few smart ideas today that will help you work smarter, not harder. So factors that have been found to contribute to these outcomes identified in a literature review by Kern and Clemens. 1, simple rules and expectations, which are consistently and fairly applied. We went over a very similar idea on Tuesday. So if you have the opportunity to get the recording from Tuesday, we really explicitly went over how to have rules and expectations in your classroom that are expected and consequences are expected, which really allows the teacher to sit back and teach and think about things. 2, the predictability of events and activities through establishing routines, informations, cues, and signals about forthcoming transitions and changes, as well as for content duration and consequences for activities. That means consequences for engaging in the correct behavior, work completion, staying on task, participation in group discussions, etc. And then there's consequences if kids don't engage in the expectation. And those are predictable, and the kids don't wonder what's coming next because they know what their consequences are for participating and engaging in activities or not doing that. Frequent praise for both verbal and nonverbal. Verbal praise should be specific and descriptive. I'll teach you a little bit how to do that. Like I said, we're going to go through that quickly. Because disruptive behavior is often associated with learning deficits, task difficulty needs to be monitored. We're not going to go through that today in depth, but we do touch it on week 3. And then number 5, opportunities to respond and participate in the classroom activities. I'm going to give you some information on how to incorporate opportunities to respond in your secondary classrooms. Seating arrangements, effective instructions and commands, sequencing of activities, we're going to touch on that, brisk pace of instruction, and then choice and access to preferred activities. And I think it's really interesting because a lot of these are in the elementary interventions as well, but the choice and access to preferred activities was not necessarily seen in the literature. So I thought that was interesting that that was more of a secondary intervention here, which maybe when we're in elementary school, we just naturally engage in more of those preferred activities than when the kids get older. I don't know. So objective 2, we're going to implement effective and frequent praise. So praise comes in all shapes and sizes, right? We can have verbal praise where you're speaking. You can have nonverbal praise where you're doing gestures or cues to the classroom or to the student that let them know that you're proud of what they're doing. So a verbal example might be, thanks for being in class today. It's nice to see you. Pretty appropriate for a high school age student, right? Most people appreciate being praised or appreciate being appreciated, right? And so this goes a long way in maintaining positive behaviors and maintaining a good relationship between staff and students. Another example is I appreciate you helping other students with the assignment today. I know when I go in and I work with schools, primarily high schools where they've got kids that are truant or kids that are just not coming to class or they're 20 minutes late to come to class. The first thing I do with teachers is we focus on the relationship between the teacher and the student. And the next thing we work on is praise and appreciation and just the words that we say to the student. And 100% of the time, when we change those two things, we have better student behavior. So I'll tell you a story about a high school young man who was involved in gang activity, and his teachers were telling me that he had not turned in one assignment all school year. He was late, 20 minutes, 30 minutes late to class. He didn't participate. A lot of times he would not even show up to class. And so when they called me in, we met. He had 8 teachers, and we met and discussed what we could do to start with. And I think the teachers were a little bit irritated at me in the beginning because, having a good relationship with a student and providing positive feedback or praise seemed like really interventions that maybe wouldn't make a difference or maybe wouldn't be valued by that student. And what we found is after 1 week of the teachers just implementing relationship strategies and praise and appreciation for him being in class, he actually turned assignments in 6 out of the 8 of his classes. And he was closer to being on time than he had been in all of his classes. So he was actually attending, and we saw an immediate increase in positive behaviors when we focused on the relationship and focused on praising him or, I love that you're here in my class today. I appreciate you showing up, right? And we did not talk about the things that he had done incorrectly. Like, you have 39 missing assignments. No, we did not say that. We said, it was nice to see you today. Thanks for being here. Instead of, hey, you were late. You were closer to on time, but you were still late. Try to get here a little bit earlier tomorrow. One of those comments is wanting a person, most people would want to come back to that situation. The teacher saying, I really appreciate you being here. It's nice to see you in class. Versus if a teacher said, you know what, you're still not on time, try again tomorrow. It makes us not want to go back tomorrow, right? And certainly maybe not try as hard. And so just the words that we use and the relationship that we have with our students really make a big difference in their behavior. And so doing things that are age appropriate, the praise that I provide examples for elementary students, they have a different things that they say to kids and different words that they say and a different tone of voice even, right? And our older kids still desire to be praised and appreciated, just like most of us do. They but I think as adults, we tend to praise far less. And I'm not sure if that's just because kids are getting older and we feel like they don't need it as much. But implementing praise in your classroom changes the tone of the dynamic in your classroom exponentially, and it changes it right away. And so if you can have a classroom that is really focused on the good things that students are doing and positive interactions between students and between the teacher and the student, it generally changes things very quickly from maybe not going in such a great direction to really going in a positive direction. And it's contagious. Other kids see how it's being done, and and it feels good to everybody. And so then we have other kids starting to praise and appreciate and compliment other students as well. And it just makes for a really great environment. Nonverbal praise could be a thumbs up, a high five, a head nod, some kind of approving look, maybe a wink, not, taken out of context. So I think just be careful there. Maybe a hand on the shoulder, just, thanks, it's just showing them that you appreciate them, you value them, glad that they're here, they did a good job. So some of those nonverbal cues can also be helpful in maintaining positive student participation and things like that. So there's been a lot of studies that have been conducted on praise. Like I said, I put 3 studies in one of the last slides on this slide deck. When teachers implemented praise as an intervention alone, not with any other interventions, it increased student on-task behavior between 30 and 70%. Just that one thing alone, telling kids you appreciate them, you appreciate how hard they're working, you appreciate them contributing to a discussion. What it does is it's reinforcing, meaning that that thing that you praised, that behavior will increase, or it will at least maintain, because it is reinforcing to the student to be told. And so I think about, as an adult, when we give somebody a compliment or we give somebody some praise, that goes a long way in how they feel about you. It also goes a long way in the chances of them engaging in behaviors to receive that praise or appreciation or validation from you in the future increase, right? Those people are more likely to engage in helping and supporting and doing the things that you need to have done so that they can make you proud of them and make you happy, right? And so you think about your relationships as adults. And I know when my kids were teenagers, I remember they used to always say, "Mom, are you BCBAing us?" When I would say, "Thanks for doing the dishes, they look great," or "Thanks for taking out the trash," right? And it does, people appreciate being appreciated. Make sure you understand student preferences. Some people do not like to be called out publicly or praised publicly, but most people do. So I have a son, for example, and he has autism. He's 24 now, almost 25, and he does not like any attention brought on him in a public setting. At home, he loves it. In public or at school, he did not like it. And in fact, when he was in first grade, his teacher praised him in front of the class, and he actually ran out of the school and ran down the street, and it was a huge mess. But most people really enjoy that. So make sure that you understand your students and understand what they like and how they like to be praised. And then make some goals for yourselves to implement higher rates of praise throughout your school day. Praise is really awesome because it's free. It doesn't cost anything, and it really doesn't take any time, but it exponentially increases on-task student behaviors and positive student interactions and all of those things. And so it is so effective as an intervention. And I want to make note as well that the 70% increase in on-task behavior in that first bullet point, that was middle school students. And those of you who work with middle school students, I thank you. That is one age range that is really, really hard to teach. And those kids appreciate being praised for the most part. And it really did a lot to increase their on-task behavior. So that's really amazing, because you don't need all of these tier 2 and tier 3 magical interventions. You need to say some really kind words, and that changes behavior exponentially, like I said. Be specific in your praise. So instead of saying, "Hey guys, you did a great job," maybe say, "Hey guys, I love how we were able to start on time. Thank you for everybody being on time and ready to go when the tardy bell rang." Right? So you're telling them exactly what they did that was good, that was helpful. You're also not praising ability, but you're praising effort. So I know this writing assignment was really difficult for everybody. I appreciate how well you did. You got 3 paragraphs. That's amazing, right? So you're not critiquing or praising what the paragraphs say, or that they're all complete sentences, or that they're all tied directly to the main topic. You're praising on their effort and their ability to turn the assignment in and have completed it to some degree. And then praise immediately after the desired behavior occurs. So in behavior analysis, we understand that the relationship between the consequence, which would be the praise, And the behavior, which would be whatever the student did to earn that praise from you, it needs to be in a short latency, meaning the closer the praise is to the actual behavior, then it really cements that in that person's mind that behavior was what earned that praise. And so then they're more likely to engage in that behavior again if they like to be praised. I can't underestimate the simplicity of implementing praise. I also can't understate the fact that if you can increase your rates of praise, I've been in elementary school classrooms where I see 3 to 5 praise statements in a minute. You really can't overdo it. When those kids have that positive flow in the classroom, they know what to expect. They know that they're doing what they're supposed to be doing. You can redirect a student. So say that Deana was not putting her folder away when that was the directive, then I can praise somebody that's around Deana, or I can praise somebody else. And then when Deana says, oh, I'm supposed to be putting my folder away, as soon as she starts to engage in that behavior, saying, Deana, thank you for putting your folder away. You're amazing. I can't believe how fast you did that. And even though that sounds like a really simple thing, and even maybe a really juvenile thing, it's very, very interesting that high school kids and middle school kids respond to that. They, their behavior improves when you get those praise statements in there. So as a teacher, when I first learned about praise, I had my paraeducator take data on me. I said, I want to know about how many praise statements I'm giving in, a 15-minute increment, and I want to make improvements on that. And so it was something I had to learn. It didn't come naturally to me. I've had this thought process that I'm the teacher. These kids are in school to learn. It's their responsibility to be here, to be in their seat, to have their folders out, to follow directions and all of those things. And that's fine. And that is the understanding, and that is the expectation. However, when you have a good relationship with somebody and you're offering that praise and that appreciation, class just goes so much better. So putting a little bit of effort in the beginning of that relationship goes a long way so that you don't have as many behaviors or as many problems in the classroom. It's a great intervention. Okay, this next objective, we're going to talk about opportunities to respond. Opportunities to respond are also known as OTRs. And these are amazing. And I worked in a school for kids with special needs last year, and I worked in their high school, and we really focused on helping the teachers implement opportunities to respond, because they had a lot of kids that just were off task. They weren't completing work, they weren't contributing to classroom discussions. One teacher had the kids working on the computers, and he could see all of their responses, and they were either not responding with the correct answer, or they were responding with inappropriate answers. And so we really talked in how can we improve the class engagement by incorporating opportunities to respond in a fun way that middle school, high school students are going to want to take part in. And kids want to talk. Most kids, a lot of kids want to talk, and they want to be social. And so when we're up lecturing and they have to raise their hand to make a comment, or you call on somebody to answer the question, and everybody else's mind goes off to what they're doing after school, or their video game, or their girlfriend that they're seeing after school, whatever, they're distracted. And so when we have one person answering a question, we have one person on task, essentially. If we're using opportunities to respond, you can get up to 100% student engagement. And it's been really fun for me to work with middle school and high school teachers, where I go in and I take the baseline. How many kids look like they're on task? How many kids are following directions? How many kids are participating in discussion, or if they're taking guided notes or whatever it is? And then how can we increase that? And we've been able to increase it from about 7 to 11% was our baseline in the middle school and high school. And we were able to increase that to 98 to 99% on task. And it wasn't that 90 or 98 or 99% of students were on task. It was the amount of time that all of the students were engaged in learning. So there were some times that a student got distracted or maybe didn't follow directions on the first time. So really, we had 100% of kids on task the majority of the time. And that is amazing because everybody's engaged, everybody's learning. And even as I was helping implement these opportunities to respond, I was really impressed that as I was walking around and listening to the students' discussion on the topic, that I was learning from them and the teacher was learning from them. And it really just helped enhance the whole discussion and the whole lesson. So it's really a lot of fun and pretty simple to implement. So an opportunity to respond is an open-ended question or something that has a answer that everybody would answer the same. So there's two types of responses. There's verbal and nonverbal responses, but these really help to increase student engagement. Like I said, from 7 to 11% baseline to 98, 99%. That's incredible. Everybody is learning. It's an awesome intervention. So a verbal response, there's a couple different types. There's a choral response. A choral response is the whole chorus or the whole classroom is answering. So a teacher might say, repeat after me, today is Thursday. Then the class says, today is Thursday. If today is Thursday, then tomorrow is Friday. And I know that's a simple, basic example, but you can do that with different, I mean, you can do that with science. You can do that with math. They're just repeating after you or echoing what you're saying. You can also have somebody say it with you. You can write a statement on the board. You can read out loud together where you're all reading the same thing, but everybody's reading it together instead of, I've got a PowerPoint, I'm going to read this to you, and you're going to listen, and I don't know if you're participating or listening to me or not, or I'm going to call on one student to read this to the rest of us, and then I know that there's hopefully one student on task, right? And instead of doing that, a better practice would be, let's all read this statement together. I'm going to wait till everybody's eyes are on the board. All right, when we have everybody ready to go, we're going to 3, 2, 1, we're going to read it together. So the expectation of a choral response is that everybody responds. Everybody says the answer together or reads the answers together. So a steps to implementation, a teacher would ask a question. So it might be an open-ended question or fill in the blank, but it's going to elicit the same short answer from students. So the second step would be the teacher gestures for think time. I know Anita Archer always put her hands like this. So she would ask the question, her hands were up like this meant thinking time. Sometimes I'll point to my brain like I'm thinking for a moment so that I can make sure that everybody has the answer before we respond. And then as the hands lower, the students answer together. So I'm going to ask a question, hands up. As they come down, the students answer the question. So here's an example. I might say, what day is today? And I know that this is really simple, but this is, you could really do this with like academic vocabulary. You can do this in steps in a math equation. You can do this a lot of different ways. And I didn't want to go, there's so many different disciplines in secondary education that I didn't want to go into a ton of examples. I think you guys can probably think of those better than I could. So what day is today? I'm thinking, and sometimes if I wasn't sure of the answer, like if I was doing something difficult with math, maybe that we had just learned, I might think back and model some thought process for the kids. So yesterday was Wednesday. So that means that today is, okay, I got it, right? So what day is today? Hands up, thinking time, lower the hands. So I'll say, I might repeat the question again. Everybody, what day is today? Today is Thursday. And then they would respond. This is really simple. You can't do this for everything. You would do this for answers that were 1 or 2 words. And so, and that all of the kids would know. And you might even have a choice of 2 words on a PowerPoint slide that you go through and have the kids choose which answer is right. So you'd ask the question, have 2 answers on the board, hands raised, and then the question again. And as you lower your hands, they would give the answer. Really great for learning academic vocabulary. Really great to have kids on task and engaged in their learning, engaged in their instruction. Another one that I really like for especially middle school and high school is these partner groupings. Like I mentioned, our kids want to talk, they want to engage. And yes, they want to talk about social things and they should. And I know that there's a time and a place for that. But you think about when you are talking with a partner, how many skills those kids are engaged in. They're engaged in speaking, they're engaged in listening, they're engaged in social interactions, functional communication, understanding what somebody else is trying to say to them. There are so many skills that are being built when our kids speak with each other. So generally, when I pair partners, I have pairs of two. You can have a triad or a pair of or three people together. I assign each partner a number or a letter. So I'll say your partner one, your partner two, and have partners of one and two throughout the classroom. Partners are sitting next to each other. And then you're going to explicitly teach the partners what their behaviors are going to look like. So I use the look, lean, and whisper just so that kids know the appropriate response and what they're supposed to be looking and what they're supposed to be doing. So if I have partner one and partner two, when I ask partner one to tell partner two what the next step is in a math equation, what we would do next, those partners are going to look at each other, lean in toward each other, and they're going to whisper so that they're not distracting everybody else. While they're having those conversations, I'm going to walk around and listen to what they're talking about. And part of that is performative assessment, so I know who's understanding the concept. And part of that is to make sure that they're on task. And the other part of it is to make sure that they're giving the right information, right? And so as we're learning and we're talking and we're communicating with one another, we want to make sure that everybody is engaged in the discussion that has been laid out to be had. It's really interesting that as we do partner work, it's interesting how much the discussion grows and how much variability there is. And so a lot of people have different perspectives or different life experiences that they bring to the table. When we have one child answer the question, going back to then there's one kiddo on task, but we have so much that other kids have to offer that they may never say if they had to raise their hand and make that comment or ask that question or add to that discussion in front of a whole group. But where you have a partner is a much more intimate setting, and a lot of kids feel more comfortable there to really share and have that collaboration. So it's really fun. So you can join two partnerships to form a single cooperative team. What I did with an elementary classroom that I worked with, it was a behavior unit, but we had pods and each person had a partner. And then those partners, when they worked together, they would move their tables together. And then when they worked as a pod, they would turn their tables in toward each other, and the two partners behind them, or the partners set behind them, would turn their tables. So you had a group of four, sometimes five, depending on the classroom and the kids. But that way you could have smaller groups where you just had partners, but then you have this bigger team that is 4 or 5 kids where you have, more people to converse with and things like that. So it's a lot of fun. And kids are all engaged in their learning. So you think about when you ask a question, you might say, partner one, I want you to lean over and tell partner two who the main character is in this story. And so then that would be a short response. But then I might say to partner two, can you tell me what your partner just said to you? And then partner two can get the information from partner one and then go ahead and reiterate that. So they have to understand, comprehend, and then also express that. So you're dealing with so many different skills there, including expressive and receptive language skills. So it's really awesome. And then also you can have things that are more complex. Maybe we're reading Romeo and Juliet in the high school classroom, and you can have a discussion with your partner or with your team. I want you to discuss, this question. Would you be on Romeo's family's side, or are you on Team Juliet, right? And why? And let them really discuss the book. And you say, well, maybe there's kids in there that haven't read the book, but they're going to be involved in that discussion. And therefore, they're going to have knowledge and understanding, and they're learning about that book. I change the partners about every 3 to 6 weeks, and that's really dependent on if partners are working well together, but we get comfortable, just like adults, we get comfortable with our partners, we get comfortable with our seating arrangements. And it's good to have kids experience other interactions with other students. So I do try to change that up. There are also times where we change up partners every day. So we'll have partner 2 will get up and move. So they'll move up a row or they'll move over a row or and engage with a different partner. And that's really fun too. It's kind of like speed dating, but we're not dating. So you're just moving partners, and it's really fun to see the engagement and the discussion that happens when we have this set up really well and our kids are engaged in learning. It's fun. How do you accommodate students who may need some more support? There are kids that have difficulty communicating. There are kids that have difficulty with the content. And so you would need to be mindful of that. You're not going to be putting students who have a higher level of need with another student that has a higher level of need. Right? And so you're going to put students, you're going to need to be mindful of how you're pairing students and also what you're asking students to do and how you're asking them, what you're asking them to discuss or to do together. So it doesn't have to only be discussion. It can be partner cooperative learning. It can be projects. It can be all kinds of different things. It can be journal writing, where a group, a pair of kids would get together and they would write some answers in a journal as the teacher directs. So this can be done in a lot of different ways, but increases learning and engagement from, to almost 100% when you have all of the kids engaged. Also, if there's kids that are not engaged, you're walking around to help them become engaged. So I notice you guys aren't talking. Tell me what you know about this. And you're walking around helping support that communication to happen. Another way you can accommodate students is if we have students that are more shy or don't want to engage in conversation, we can go to be with them and kind of speak for them a little bit, or try to engage in that conversation to teach them and to help them feel safe, and maybe asking them, I think about it this way. How do you think about it? And just inviting them. We don't want to pressure anybody to do this, but generally when it's about a topic that's fun and we start with something that's a little bit more enjoyable, even talking about, a video game or something like that to get things going so that kids feel comfortable with this kind of partner work. It can really be, it can really make the classroom a fun place to be. All right, we have nonverbal responses. So those can be things like thumbs up or thumbs down. Are you feeling good today? Are you feeling not so good today? Are you feeling today? Just those nonverbal responses. There's a lot of times where teachers nowadays are checking in with kids on how they're feeling, what they're, if they had breakfast this morning, if they slept good last night, right? So just checking in with them, even emotionally or socially, to see how is everybody feeling today. You can also have things, and this is really great for even formative assessment. You can put a spelling word up on the board and you can say, which one is spelled? Is it spelled correctly? Yes, it is. No, it's not. I don't know. Right? And so you're getting an idea of who knows what. You can put a question on the board that says, who is the main character of this story? And have 2 different or 3 different options, and they can say 1, 2, or 3. I think it's number 2. I think it's Sarah. She's the main character, right? So you're really giving them ways to participate where everybody's doing it. And guess what? If I didn't read the story and I don't know who the main character is, and I see everybody else putting up 2, I'm going to look up and I'm going to say, oh, number 2 is Sarah. I'm going to put up number 2 because everybody else has that up there. It's still learning instead of shaming somebody because they don't know, right? Or giving them a writing assignment and saying, write on the main character of this story. And the kids looking around, I didn't read the story, or I don't have good comprehension skills, unable to engage in their learning. So when they see other kids doing it, they're still learning. So it's a very valuable tool to have in your toolbox. Guided notes are a form of opportunities to respond. when you're going through and reading something or giving a lesson on something and the kids are writing the answers in those guided notes, I would make sure that those words you put in those guided notes are the biggest bang for your buck words so that they're really attaching that to their learning. At the end of that, I might have them do a partner share where they share their guided notes with their partner and make sure they have the same answers there. And if they don't, I might have them have that discussion of what answer is supposed to be there and see if we can figure out who made what mistake where and fix it. You can have interactive whiteboards. You can have poll everywhere. You can have those clickers where it clicks on if is it A or B or which one's the right answer. Those are really fun. And it also, some of those programs also allow kids to change their answer. So if I think the answer is B and I see that everybody else is answering A and that bar graph is going up on A and I have B, then I can switch my answer. And I've learned something. It's feedback. It's teaching me that, oh, that's not the right answer. The answer is A. I've just learned something. Instead of getting a worksheet back where you've had have a check mark next to that question, you got it wrong and you don't learn in the moment. Entry and exit tickets or bell ringer tickets, bell ringers or exit tickets are also good opportunities to respond. There's also response cards, and I love response cards because I print them off and I laminate them. I give the kids a dry erase marker and they can circle and then hold up their response card. So that's really great. And this one that I have a picture of here is wonderful because it gives you so many options. So it gives you true and false or agree or disagree, ABC, and then also 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So those are really great. You can have short written responses like in a journal entry or short written responses on a worksheet or something else. When you touch or point to, so we're going to read in this book all together, open to page 39. We're going to start on paragraph 2. Everybody touch the first word and we're going to choral read together instead of popcorn reading. We have everybody reading together in a whispered voice or something where it's not going to get too loud, but everybody's reading together instead of one person reading and everybody else counting down to see how many people are between them and the reader so that they know which paragraph they have to read. So no one's listening to the reader anyway. And maybe even including the reader because the reader's so nervous about making sure that they get all of the words right and they speak clearly and they're not sure what the word is down here or how to pronunciate it. It gets problematic when we do things like popcorn reading. So this would be, we all read together. Whiteboards, I love whiteboards where you have short answers written on a whiteboard. Great for all the that we do, especially in things like math or sentence writing. There's some really simple things that can be done on a whiteboard, but it's great formative assessment and frankly better than a worksheet. Hand signals, so stop or go or thumbs up or thumbs down. It can be standing, sitting. It can be all kinds of different things. Down on the left side of the room if you think this, or the right side of the room if you think this way. It's just can be a lot of fun to have opportunities to respond where you're just not responding by raising your hand or entering your data on a worksheet. You can have acting out, clickers, and then other brainstorming activities where you're working together, where everybody's involved, everybody's participating, and everybody's learning. The benefits are it improves on-task behavior. And if you have the right contingencies in place, meaning if we can get through this discussion, maybe we'll go to free time earlier, maybe we'll spend 2 more minutes in PE or out at the gym or whatever. So you're setting the kids up for success and you're setting the kids up to participate in these opportunities to respond. And because kids are on task and engaged in their learning, it decreases their problem behaviors, right? You don't have as much going on if all of the kids are engaged in their learning. It makes class really fun. And the teachers that I put this in place with, I had a science teacher, he was a high school science teacher, and he said, I don't think this is going to work, and I don't know if I can do this. Anyway, I left and I came back 2 days later. It was an AB block schedule. Came back 2 days later, and he was so excited to tell me that he had implemented it earlier that day. and was learning from it. So he said, you know, I implemented it and this went well and this didn't go so well. So then the next period I tweaked something here, and he had to tweak some things and do some things to make sure that all of the kids were accommodated for and all of the kids were participating. But he had it down to all of the kids participating by his last class of the day, which is the class that I attended. And he just said, this is so fun. I don't know why I didn't know about having partners, this intervention. It also increased their academic performance because kids are learning as they're responding. And when I do whiteboards or I do a response card, I wait till I see everybody's, right? And so I will say, waiting for a couple of kids, we're almost there, we're almost there. And even if the child looks at the kids next to him, their whiteboard as they're holding it up, and he's like, oh, he's got an 11 on his, I'm gonna write an 11 on mine and hold it up. We're still engaged in learning, and that's a starting point, right? So even if that child didn't know the answer and didn't know how to get the answer, at least it's a starting point to having them engaged in their learning. And that's the right trend we need to be on. Really great for formative assessment. Like I said, I would rather give a formative assessment using whiteboards or clickers or other things than a quiz or an assignment or a worksheet. Worksheets don't have a very high effect size in some of the grades. All right, so those were opportunities to respond. I hope that you took something from there and have a couple ideas of how you can implement something tomorrow or not Monday, Tuesday, and just work on it, tweak it, make it work in your classroom where you have kids that are all on task instead of having the kid back there in the corner who's asleep and this kid that comes in late. Get the kids involved and engaged with each other. It's really fun. All right, objective 4 is to improve daily schedule to best sequence activities. So this is where we intersperse tasks. So we might have more simple tasks and then have a more difficult task and then kind of intersperse those so that we're not just working so hard on such difficult tasks for long periods of time. So this enhances engagement, learning, and reduces disruptions or problem behaviors. It assists with transitions within the classroom. And here's an example. In behavior analysis, we call this behavior momentum, where we start with something easier or something more likely for the students to engage in when they come into class, and then we gradually get a little bit more difficult and a little bit more sustained attention from the student. So I'll give you an example of how to do that. So you may start with something more preferred and then gradually increase your demand. I would keep your schedule consistent. So I'm going to give you an example for math class. You may come in from lunch or whatever classes before math. You're going to get your book, turn in your homework, and grab your bell ringer activity. I like to have my bell ringer activities review the previous day's learning objectives so that I see who has retained that learning objective and who met that learning objective, so I know where I'm going to start today. Then we might have lights off and have it quiet. When the bell ringer is complete, you might review it with a partner. So you have 3 minutes there. When your answers match, turn it in. You can draw, you can lay your head down, you can use a fidget. We had a high school class that we put those charcoal markers, not markers, pencils, and we just laid them out, and we found out that one of these kids was a wonderful artist. He just had never had the opportunity to really, I think, even experience that for himself. Really a great thing, but he was also using it as kind of a decompression strategy. There was quite a big transition before the class started, and it was pretty stressful for him to get there on time. And so those charcoal pencils were just out and he used them to kind of calm down. And we learned that he was a fabulous artist. So a lot of fun information. Then we might do a review of math vocabulary. We might have songs or videos or other visual supports that are fun for the kids. Then we're going to get into the lesson. We're going to review yesterday's objectives so we can tie today's knowledge to the prior knowledge and link those. And then we're going to move into our instructional cycle. So if you have this series of activities, you're going to do this same series every single day. The kids are never going to wonder what they're doing today. They're going to come in, they're going to know that they get their book, turn in their homework, grab their bell ringer activity. It's going to be the same process every day, which creates a feeling of safety and security for the kids. Because just like you, if you show up somewhere and you don't know what you're going to be doing, then you feel a little bit nervous about that. You feel kind of like you're tossed about in the ocean, but you're not sure where you're going. And so it just gives them a sense of security, and it makes things really easy for you because you know that you're going to have the same sequence of activities every day. You might have 6 math classes a day. You might have 3 or 4 different types of math that you're teaching, but your process and your sequence of activities can be similar or the same. Then I would move into my instructional sequence cycle. And this is based on best practices, right? How do you provide high quality instruction? And although we're not going to get into this here, you're going to have the same cycle of instruction every single time you give a lesson. You're going to gain attention. You're going to set a clear expectation. Right now, I want your eyes on me, feet on the floor. We're listening. At the end of the class, you're going to have an exit ticket with 3 questions on it. And here they are. And I might display those 3 questions on the whiteboard or on the, put them on the board so that the kids know exactly what they have to learn, because then they're going to be more engaged in trying to learn it because they want to get that exit ticket done as quickly as possible so they can get out, right? So let them know what the objective is, have your warm-up activity. Maybe you're tying to yesterday's knowledge. Your hook, which could be a fun story or a short video or an example of when you might use something in real life, whatever that's going to be to hook your students into wanting to learn what you have to say. Review prior knowledge, give the instruction, do together, then you do independently. And then you can differentiate that exit ticket if you need to, if you have kids on different learning levels. And then when you're done, you can read a book, you can color with the charcoal pencils, you can do Sudoku, wipe off Sudoku boards, they're in the back of the classroom. What do they do when they're done? And have the same sequence every single day to create a feeling of safety and security and expectation for all of your kids. And then just keep cycling. This reduces you prompting and reminding kids and having to explain what's different today, what's different tomorrow, what are we doing Friday. It's going to be the same every day. So it's going to cut your teacher talk down exponentially. And then reinforcement is naturally occurring, right? You're doing things within your lesson plan. You're doing things within your cycle that are reinforcing or fun for the kids that they look forward to. All right, we're going to learn how to successfully, that's the key word, successfully implement a simple group contingency plan. And I love this plan. Anyway, I give some credit to it at the end, but it's really fun, and it's really easy when a teacher reinforces the entire class or smaller group of students for a correct behavior. So it's really great if you have kids that are off task or kids that are clowning around or disruptive. It's very simple and it's very efficient and it's free. You're not spending any money and relatively no time. It's very easy to monitor. You can use a group contingency for anything, but I would use it when there's something new that you're learning or something difficult. Maybe a time during the day when you're having a difficult time maintaining kids being on task or kids engaging in their learning. But you're focusing on the positive behaviors, you're kind of catch them being good rather than focusing on the problems or the problem behaviors our kids are exhibiting. And as a teacher, it's really easy to sometimes get caught in that trap of taking note of when kids are not doing what they're supposed to be doing and calling them out. This is kind of shifting that script to the kids that are doing what they're supposed to be doing and giving some positive feedback there. There's 3 types. We're going to talk about the interdependent group contingency. Those generally, I like those better than the other 2. So we're going to talk about interdependent. So this is where the same reinforcement or consequence is given to everybody based on the performance of everybody. So if everyone does it, everyone gets it. I know you're going to say, well, I can't make everyone do it. Yes, you can. I'm going to show you how. that you can do that and tweak this so that everybody can be successful and everybody can earn what you're earning. So here's an example. The class average for a test is above the predetermined criteria, which is 85% or higher. The entire class can have free time, extra free time. If everyone can pass the pre-test with at least 80%, we'll watch a movie on Friday. Guess what? If everybody passed the pre-test with 80%, then maybe we just look at what questions they didn't answer correctly, and maybe just teach to those questions rather than spending the whole time going over a unit that most of the kids already know and have mastered. So this helps kids help each other, and it's really awesome to see when it's implemented correctly. The cons of putting this kind of group contingency in place are if you bring attention to somebody who's bringing down the average, or you bring attention to somebody who's not engaging in the behaviors that we need to earn the party or to earn whatever we're earning, they could be bullied or excluded. So this is called the 3 jars, and it's awesome. It's been used to improve all kinds of student performance, behavior, interpersonal, social. It's pretty easy to implement. You do not have to have a glass jar. I just implemented these. The teacher had 3 baggies that she put the sticky notes in. So we're going to identify the target behavior. What behavior are we wanting to improve? So maybe you're going to increase active student participation by asking and answering questions during group instruction. It may be that you're going to complete assignments or turn in homework. The second jar is where your goals are going to be. So maybe one of your goals could be all students must ask or answer at least 1 question during group instruction. Or today's goal is for everyone to ask or answer at least 1 content question, either to the whole group or to your partner. And then you're going to have how you're going to monitor and evaluate the performance. So if all students participated at least once, the goal has been met and all students are rewarded. Everyone gets 10 minutes of free time. If the goal is not met, we try harder next time. We really try to meet the goal, even if we have to tweak the bags a little bit or the jars a little bit. Provide additional support for kids who need it. So kids will work hard most of the time when they know what they're earning. It doesn't have to be that they're earning a lot. And I hear people say, well, why should they earn anything? They're in school. Well, you're not at school because you're not earning anything. I mean, we all engage in behaviors where we get some kind of reinforcement out of it. And if we don't get something reinforcing out of it, we quit doing it generally. So it's good to have something, even if it's a few minutes of extra free time, that you're telling the kids that they can earn, because it's going to save you time having to deal with problem behaviors. You can have everybody on task, everybody doing what they're supposed to be doing. They get a little bit of extra free time. And mystery motivators are awesome. And a lot of kids, particularly in middle school, really love those mystery motivators, but they need to be good stuff. It can be free, but they need to be good stuff. So here's some visuals. The first jar is the what. So work accuracy, work completion. So these have several sticky notes that say similar things. So you can have a variety of things in here. So you can see like there's accuracy 90%, there's accuracy 80%, and accuracy 85%. So if you picked this paper out of the jar, this is what you would want the kids to have mastered, is work completion with 95%, etc. Oh, let's see. Sorry, the second jar is who. So you can have sticky notes or notes with the entire class. You can have rows, you can have the green table, you can have individual students. So put the who into the jar or into the baggie. And then the third jar is what activities or items do they want? Well, our kids in middle school, you need to know what they want to earn. If having 5 minutes of extra free time is not important or valuable to them, that's something you're not going to put in the jar. So a lot of times I'll just ask kids, what do you want to earn? And I'll tell you what, a lot of high school kids say those smelly gel markers. I mean, they want things that are pretty available and pretty free. They don't want a lot, or they want access to their phone for 2 minutes at the end of class. If that's a school policy that you can, let them have their phone for 2 minutes at the end of class, then why wouldn't you use that? That doesn't take you any time, money, preparation, nothing. So you're going to choose the behavior. What do we want to increase or decrease? I usually focus on increasing. The class agrees on things they'd like to earn. We set the criteria, the pieces of paper are written, and we put it into the jars. The goal is posted, so it's for everyone to see. The rules are taught or reviewed. This is how we're going to do it. And we're going to do it by the end of this class period or the end of the week or whatever timeline you have set. The sooner the reinforcement is given, at least initially, the more likely the students are to engage in that behavior. So don't have something a month from now. Start out with something by the end of class today. And it can be a smaller thing, but you'll have probably greater participation. So here's an example. If 90% of students turn their homework in by Friday, we'll have a pizza party. Troubleshooting, make sure you strategically group kids together that can help each other and support each other to get the job done. We want them to help each other out. Praise often, tell the kids what you like what they're doing, and help kids that are not on task, but avoid calling them out for certain behaviors or avoid calling out certain students. Create buy-in, have the students select group names or table names, have them create buy-in by choosing what reinforcers or what rewards they want to earn. And then just change the reward or what they're earning often and just know their preferences and just ask them. A lot of times our kids will tell you exactly what they want to earn. All right, I know our time is out. I just want to review our objectives. Learning the science of classroom management strategies with strong evidence to support positive student behaviors. We went over 3 of those. We went over effective and frequent praise, how to incorporate opportunities to respond, and then improving the daily schedule to best sequence activities. And then just because I love group contingencies and I think they're so effective and awesome and fun, I taught you guys how to do a simple contingency group plan, which was the 3 jars. You will get this PowerPoint presentation and recording. So I know I spoke quickly, but I'm hoping that you guys can set a goal for this week. I know we don't meet again for 2 weeks, but set a goal on how you're going to improve or increase your rates of praise, how you're going to implement one simple opportunity to respond. It could even be just the choral responding, something super simple. Take 1 or 2 small changes in your practice, what you're doing now, and just take 1 or 2 goals and create those goals and implement them and see how things go. And I think you'll notice that pretty quickly your students will be more on task and they'll be engaged in their learning, and it's just more fun. So think about, those are the 4 things that we covered today. I don't expect you to go and do a goal in each of them or a goal that you're going to do group partner opportunities to respond across every class period. That's not going to be something that is, you're not going to leave here happy. So I want you to make 1 or 2 small goals that you're shaping your behavior as a teacher to get more class engagement and to get kids learning better and having a better environment for your students and then for yourself as well. So here are some articles on praise. If you would like to download those and read them, super awesome and effective. And we're done. And thank you for being here. I know it's late and it's dark and you want to go home and it's Thursday. And I hope that you were able to take something today. Hope you're able to incorporate it. And I really want to hear how things go. I want you guys to come back and share your results with what you incorporated and if it worked and how you tweaked it so that we can all learn from one another. So thank you for being here today. I will see you guys in a couple of weeks and appreciate all that you do teaching, being educators, teaching our kids. It's the hardest job in the world and probably the least maybe valued by some people. It is hard, but it's so rewarding when you are able to change lives of kids. And I know that you guys do, and I appreciate all that you do. So thanks for being here today.
Christine, thank you so very much. Christine has agreed to stay on just a few minutes to answer some questions. I do see a couple on our Jamboard, so I'll just read a couple of those if that's okay. And then if we still have some time, we'll answer a couple more. Sure. The one says, actually, I'm going to go ahead and just stop the recording now.